So we're live.
Okay.
Hello, everybody. Good day, good day, good day. Uh, from wherever you are tuning in to us. Um, for those who don't know me, my name is James Weeks. I am from the Caribbean island of St. Croix, Virgin Islands. I am the author of the book Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. I'm also the producer of the upcoming documentary film, Across the King's River, Finding and Fulfilling Your Life's Purpose. I'm a spiritual and financial coach. I provide strategies for emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, and financial wellness. To learn more about me and the work that I do, visit acrossthekingsriver.com. Today, I'm honored to have a very special guest with us, my son, my oldest child, Malcolm Weeks. Malcolm is an amazing, successful businessman here in the Bay Area. He's a contractor, an amazing uh, father, dedicated father of four beautiful children. And he's also someone that goes out of his way to help people on a regular basis. So, Malcolm, welcome to our talk today. Yes.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. And so whenever I talk publicly, whether it's on a radio interview or a podcast, and I'm talking about my journey, whenever I'm talking about my book, Meditations Across the King's River, I always say that, it was a crisis that led me down this path. It was a family crisis um, that I was going through that created this ripple effect that took both of us on this journey of spiritual growth and spiritual transformation, took us all the way to Nigeria. Um, and so, what that family crisis was at the time, uh, my son was going through a rough period. And what I say in my book, Meditations Across the King's River, is that he was caught up in the gang life, the thug life. And for those who don't know, like during that time of my life, it was like incredible stress. That was the first time I understood how stress could kill someone. Before then, I didn't know. Stress was just a word to me. But during that period, there were days when I didn't know where my son was. And there were lots of times when me and my wife we were arguing all the time because we didn't know what to do. And so it was a very, very scary time, a dangerous time with my family. Everything felt like it was just like falling apart. So, Malcolm, I was just wondering if you could share with the audience what that period was like for you, and what some of the things you were going through that made things turn out that way at that time.
Yes. It definitely was a dark time in my life as well. I think peer pressure and kind of the urban, some of the surroundings, the things at school, just peer pressure. It's never cool to be studious. So I think there were a combination of things that led me to the gang activity. And it was also wanting to feel part of something in a way, wanting to feel part of a group. So I think that was it was definitely a dark time though. It was almost like living a life, living someone else's life.
Mm.
Yes,
So, did you ever feel like when you're growing up that you would end up in that type of lifestyle, or no?
definitely not. That wasn't a childhood goal to. No, that wasn't.
All
I
right.
would just say maybe an unfortunate series of events, like they say sometimes the perfect storm or the not so perfect storm, kind of just led me to that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So understand. So like when that period was happening, I was just like, how could this be happening to me? That's how it felt like for me,
Mhm.
because you had like benefits that other children in the inner cities did not have.
True.
Horseback riding lessons, take you to St. Croix like every summer it felt like,
Yeah,
and
true.
then here it was, our family was in this crisis, falling apart. Every day when I was at work, I would look at the phone and wait for that phone to ring
Mhm.
because I couldn't even work. It was like
Yeah,
maybe the police is on the other end. Maybe I hear about some other incident at school. Maybe there's some arrest. I remember one time when my mom was calling the house, wanted to speak to you. And today's my mom's birthday. She passed in 2019. So happy birthday, mom in spirit. But I remember one time she wanted to speak to you, and I kept saying, "You're not home. You're not home. You're not home. You're not here." And then finally she asked, "Well, where is her grandson?" And I said, "Well, you're in juvenile hall. He's locked up. He's not here." So what was that experience like for you?
I think to me that was definitely the beginning of the eye opening. The room service sucks. Um, it's definitely not a place to be, and believe it or not, the structure and the rules and laws they have in jail are just, to me, it makes it like unbearable. So that was definitely a wake up call for me.
Right. So 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 what happened during this period? So one of the things that happened for me was when things just kept getting worse and worse. And what happened is someone said to me that there was this man from Africa in town, in the Bay Area, and he's doing readings. He does spiritual readings. This man was from Nigeria, West Africa. He was an Ifa priest, and he did consultation readings. So I decided to go for him for a reading. I didn't really want to go, and I always say this. Um, but the only reason why I went was I was hoping to get insight into my son's behavior. What is going on, right? And I just needed help. And so one day I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to this man for a reading. And so when he started doing this process known as divination, which is what I do now for others, and he looked into the spiritual world, he told me about you. You came up in the reading and he said, "Oh, your son is, keep an eye on your son. He's with some bad elements." But then he started talking about me. And what he started to tell me was, "But James, you are meant to be a spiritual person. You're meant to be a Ifa priest and diviner. You're meant to be doing the work that I do." And he told me what my spiritual name was. And he said in the future, I would be known around the world for the work that I do. And in that moment, when he told me about myself, I felt like I heard it before in some other lifetime. I felt like it was just so strong that it like shook me up. During that moment, I started to look at what you were going through as like a blessing. I started to think, wow, if Malcolm wasn't going through that rough time, maybe I would not have learned about this calling. And that night, after I came back from that reading, I wanted to almost like thank you for causing all of this trouble. Because I said, like, wow, this is leading me closer to what my calling must be. Right. And that's when I decided, well, if this is what my calling must be, let me go to Nigeria, let me go to West Africa, let me get initiated into this tradition if this is what it is the outcome, if this is really part of the message. And so it was like a beautiful thing out of a very difficult circumstance. And that's what it was like for me. So I want to share about our experiences in Nigeria, but I also want to talk about another profound experience that happened around the same time. And that experience was that my grandmother, who was deceased at the time, spoke to us in spirit. And I write about this in my book in the chapter, The Return of the Matriarch. My grandmother, Alma Daward, well known on St. Croix, Virgin Islands for cooking. I can't remember what year she passed in. So we were uh, in San Francisco listening. We, a famous medium was in town. His name is Robert Brown. And so Malcolm and I went, and he was to just give a workshop, and then and he said he's going to like do some real life demonstrations. And toward the end of his demonstration, my deceased grandmother was speaking to him, because she came in the back and she started speaking to my son. She wasn't really speaking to me directly, she was speaking to him. And that's when it just blew my mind. That's when I started to believe more in the concept of ancestors and how they can help us. Could you tell us what that was like for you, Malcolm?
Yes, that was a very interesting event. I definitely went into it skeptical, um, thinking of, just kind of skeptical about it. And I remember, though, I had this thought in my head when we first sat down. I said, "Let's sit in the back. I don't want to be picked on. I don't, And I remember telling myself that. And so, like you mentioned, towards the end of it, he spoke. He had a message, and I can remember Grandma always telling me to be careful. Um, one of her nickname, I was her hero, and so as he was speaking to me, it was I heard her voice tell me my hero, and he began speaking and telling me that she's still present, she's always there. It was a very like surreal moment. That's yes.
Yeah, and so one of the things that she said at that time was that your days of trouble would soon be
Mm,
over. That's one of the things. So she came through with words of encouragement. And how do I know it was my grandmother? It's because there was a lot of things that she shared that told me, oh, this is my grandmother. The amount of children she had, how
mhm,
she this woman is from the islands. This woman loved children. This woman is always in church. This is a woman of faith. So there was just so much detail that said, this is grandmother. So one of the messages she said to you was, your days of trouble will soon be over. I'm
mhm,
going to be watching over you. She also spoke about a job that you would be having.
yes,
And then she also talked about a pain you had in your back at the time. And so there were a lot of details that she gave, and that was really life changing for me. I said, wow. Um, and this happened before our trip to Nigeria. So that was another thing that gave me faith anyway. So going to Nigeria was very difficult. Things were so bad in the house. I didn't even know if Malcolm would get on that plane with us, to be honest. It was like every day my wife would ask, well, do you think he'll come? And I was like, well, I hope so. I would say he said he's going to come, right? But up until that point where we actually got you on the plane, we didn't know if it would actually happen.
mm,
So Nigeria was a very difficult time. I was stressed out all the time. It was definitely not a vacation for me. And so I remember when we went to my elders in Ile Ife, I was meeting them for the first time, and we were talking about what you're going through in the United States. And they were saying that, okay, well, they're going to do some rituals to help you. That's what they were telling me. They're going to do some sacrifices. They're going to give you a soap to take a bath with. They're going to give you a spiritual bath. They're going to give you some things in your food. And I remember one time they said that they're going to give you something to drink, right? Some medicine to drink, and that just like flipped me out because I was thinking, well, suppose this medicine actually makes my son worse, you know? And so I was dreading it until I found out that in their culture, when they're medicine men, when they give you medicine, they drink it first themselves just to show you it's not harmful. And then they'll give some to you.
mhm.
So could you talk about what your experience was like in Nigeria for you?
Yes, it was a very eye-opening experience. I definitely went in kind of skeptical. It's funny you mentioned it wasn't a vacation because as a 17-year-old, I said, "Hey, man, this is better than being where To me, it was kind of a vacation. So that was interesting. But I would say the first or second day, um, I'm not sure if there was a conversation or a message that was given, but it kind of opened my eye for the first time. That hey, there are things out. There's more to life than what I know, and that was it definitely piqued my interest, and it became more of an interesting um, aspect, almost like learning to read or write. I wanted to, I wanted to seek more, soak more of it up, so to speak, and I definitely became open. My third eye, as they say, my penal eye opened during that trip. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a comment. Again, welcome to all of you who are joining us from around the world. Fanuel is saying that he had an experience like that that happened to me. I'm not sure exactly what experience he had, but I'm hoping that he will tell us more. And so one of the things that happened in Nigeria, I remember like when I was getting ready to leave Nigeria, this is after my spiritual initiation, and Malcolm actually stayed in Nigeria for like maybe I think 1 to 2 weeks longer than I did.
Mhm,
When I came back to United States, I was still like, it was still a scary time. I was thinking, well, we did all of this. Am I going to see any changes? It was such an unsettling time. So it's not like, and they told me before I left Nigeria that I would see some good things in my family. And when they told me that, I didn't know if they were telling me that to make me feel good, or if I would really see some changes. And so I remember about a month or so after we came back from Nigeria, the therapist who was seeing you at the time said, I don't know what happened in Nigeria, but your son is new and improved. That's what he said.
mhm,
And it was still early on, but like when I look at all the changes over the years that you have gone through in life and where you are now, it's like I'm completely blown away. And I know like mom, my wife is like, she's like blown away all the time. She always says, isn't he amazing? So when I think about like where you were and like where you are today and all that you're able, what all that you've achieved so far is like, it shows me that miracles can happen to people, right? And miracles do happen. So I want you to talk about a few things like, what do you feel helped you to get to like where you are now? And like, what advice do you have for like, I work with so many mothers who are worried about their children because most of the clients that I work with are women, right? And a lot of them have children that are in rough spots. So I wanted you to talk about your what you feel helped you with your transformation, but also what is your advice? What are your words of encouragement to mothers or others who are either have children who are struggling or people who are in a dark place right now and are wondering if they're going to make it? What would you say?
Wow, definitely. I would say that over the years, I used to hear this all the time that people don't change until they're ready to. And there was a time where you, mom, everyone around me was supporting this change. And it took for me to want that change until it happened. It doesn't matter who I was spoke to, what trip I took, none of those things mattered until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Basically, I hit my rock bottom. And so sometimes as a parent, and now that I have kids, as a parent, you want for them or people you love and care about more than sometimes they want for themselves in that moment. And the way to get through that is to just be patient and be supporting. And just patience is very, very important. So I would definitely tell someone who's having a struggling family member that sometimes the best way, one of the things I learned through this process that I went through with you and writing this book is that sometimes you helping me, you didn't take me to Nigeria because um, you took me to Nigeria because you were exhausting all other options. You had tried all these different things and nothing was working. Honestly, nothing was working. So that was just another notch that you wanted to check off the list and say, yes, it worked or yes, it didn't. And so sometimes helping other people is a way for you to get your blessing. And I never realized that until one of the first times we spoke about the book, that you taking me to Nigerians and this whole process starting from wanting to help someone else became a blessing and your calling in life. So sometimes the universe works indirectly.
I like that. I like that, the idea of the universe working indirectly. I wanted to talk about like your tips for like, okay, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay
Mm,
like what feeds you spiritually? Because as I work with clients, one of the things I always say is like, it's important to have some type of spiritual practice of some kind. To me, it doesn't matter what your spiritual practice is, but self-care, emotional care, to me is high on the list of something that all of
yes,
us should be working on. So
yes,
I'm wondering, like, in your experience, like, what do you find that works for you? How do you stay grounded in these like crazy times that we all live in?
true, true. That is very important. I would personally say my biggest technique is breathing, controlled breathing, breath to surrender, command breath. There's several different breaths combined with meditation. That is probably my go-to style of grounding. I also like nature, and I'm not sure where I heard this, but I've heard being barefoot and just putting your feet in the dirt or the sand, not concrete, not rubber, tennis shoes. Actually connecting with the earth with your feet is beneficial. So I often, love nature. So I would say nature and breathing techniques combined with meditation. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. Um, I want to say, because I like some of the things that this whole experience with my son has taught me, and it's still teaching me. So it's not to say like, oh, it taught me, and it's still continuing to teach me today. So one of the things that I would say this whole experience has taught me and is teaching me is that the power of like the decisions that we make as humans, we think that the decisions that we make are just our own decisions and that they only affect us, but that's
Mm,
not true. So what I've learned is that our decisions create a ripple effect in other lives, um, even around the world. Because as I came back from Nigeria and I started working on a book and I created this Acrostic Things Over Facebook page, it started our story that was personal story to us started impacting lives all around the world because Facebook shows us like what countries people tune in from.
mhm.
It's like every country in Africa, you know,
Wow.
throughout the Caribbean, Trinidad, Tobago, Jamaica, St. Croix, Puerto Rico. countries that we've never been in and may never been go to: Pakistan, India, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, United Arab Republic, the Philippines, Switzerland, uh, Italy, you name it, Switzerland. So it shows me that all of us, the power that we all have to impact the world is much greater than we think, right?
Sure.
But it's just on a day-to-day basis because we're humans. We tend to think like, no, our impact is not that big, but it's not true. It's much bigger than it is.
Mhm.
And also, one of the things that I've learned from this experience is that miracles happen, beautiful, beautiful things happen, that healing is possible. And so, what happens to a lot of us is we get into this space where, because of whatever crisis that we are in at the moment, we start to feel like there's no hope for us, that nothing will get better for us. So if we're going through a rough path, we start to think, well, maybe I'll always be going through this rough path. What are your thoughts about this?
I definitely agree. Sometimes it's hard to see past the clouds or the storm in front of you. But they call it cliche. My kids say it's cliche, but I tell them, when after the rain, the sun always comes out, and it's true. But just remembering that in the dark moments, and when it's been dark for a while, that is very, very challenging. And to me, that's where the ripple effect, like you say, having support, trying to impact other people, and those blessings can come back around to you. That's why that's very important. So,
Right.
yes.
Beautiful. So I was wanted to shift the conversation a little bit. Um, I wanted to talk about business and money. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because as I work with people, as I interact with people, um, financial concerns are high on the list, as well as emotional things. And one of the things is, well, how many times it might be, well, how can they start a business to generate income to take care of themselves, or
Mhm.
maybe how can they turn like a passion into something that creates income to them? Because you've had such success as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, as a contractor. What advice do you give for people who are trying to like earn additional money in this way? One of the things that you told me last week when we were talking was, first we must be willing to do things that other people are not willing to do. So what advice would you give people who are in this spot and they're trying to like get this extra income? What would you say?
Definitely. Definitely. I was in a situation. I was actually fired from a job I had for a few years, and I sat on it. Being fired for the first time made me question my own integrity, and it definitely made me question things. And so I decided, instead of working on my resume, which was collecting dust, 10 years sitting there, I decided to invest in my own brand and into my own company. And so to me, there's three, not in any particular order, but the top three things that you must have for as an entrepreneur is passion. You have to love what you do. It has to be something that um, people say this all the time, that you would do for free. You see it as a hobby, at home, whatever it is, if it's hair or skin products. When you go to your house, you have a section of your house that has hair or skin products, because that's something that you include in your home. So the passion really has to be there. Secondly, is patience, patience, patience. As you mentioned earlier, you have to be willing to do what others aren't. So on a Friday night, when everyone else is trying to go out and hang out and go to the movies, you have to be, even though it's uncomfortable and there's times where you don't want to do that, you have to be sitting down writing business plans or looking up inventory or shopping around for materials or products or whatever the business is. So definitely that willpower. You have to be willing to do what other people aren't. My typical business hours are 9 to 5. As an entrepreneur, you have to be business minded outside of 9 to 5. It's a 24/7 aspect. There's times where sometimes I'm sleeping. I wake up out of my sleep and I think of an idea or something that could help or benefit. So that passion really has to be there. Those are my three things that I think would help.
You're good. I like that. And so one of my tips for people who are thinking about either business or generating extra income, it would be one to like not be so quick to give up. So because I work with people also, I try and educate people in the financial space. People are so quick to give up. They do something for 1 month and then you know they're not seeing the result and then they stop. They do it or 2 or 3 months. But it's important to have a long-term view. You have
Sure.
to think beyond months. You do not be quick to give up. If it's a business idea, dedicate, just tell yourself you're going to, if it matters to you, give it a few years at least.
Oh yeah.
But this in and out business that a lot of us do is part of the reason why so many of us are not successful is we're not committed long term. And then the other tip that I would give is actually to stop focusing on making money. And what I mean by that, it sounds like a contradiction because I talk about finance,
True.
right?
True.
And why it's important and why we need to have wealth conversations and money conversations. And here I'm saying, oh well, don't focus on money. And what I mean by that is that we have to think about like how we can develop as a person. Like we need to be thinking about like what skills can we learn? How can we be more patient? How can we learn marketing? There are other things that we have to learn and develop, right? And not being in such a rush. So this whole focus on money is why also people give up so soon because they're only measuring their growth by money, by what's in their bank account, and they're not looking at it in terms of like what's in their spiritual account or like how they've grown as a person. Because
Mhm.
we might grow as a person spiritually and emotionally and become a better person even if the money is not there yet.
True.
And that's why we have to think about okay, investing in ourselves. And then like Malcolm said, is just patience and having a love like you said, because what I've learned um, is that um, if there's no love behind what you do, the minute trouble comes, you'll stop doing it
Yeah.
because you're only thinking about whether there's money or not.
True.
So if there's no love behind what you do, you're not going to last long. Yeah.
True.
Somebody made a comment, so I want to show you what that comment is because he was talking about this is Fanuel. So he's saying that he went home in 2018 to pay respects to his grandparents at his dad's side, and he decided to visit his mom and also see his grandmother. And the first thing they told us was that we had to wash hands and give us drink because we've been away for so long. So there was a cleansing drink, and
Mm.
Fanuel is from Kenya, and so everywhere throughout Africa there are just different types of rituals and medicines of various types that people do for wellness. And so one of the great learning tips for us is that even though like I said, I grew up on St. Croix and then came to California, was that we ended up having to go all the way to Nigeria to get some healing in our family, and it turned out that that healing was beneficial for us. And so these other cultures, these cultures from our ancestors have so much to offer us too. And so like you said, being open to other things and not being so quick to dismiss what other cultures are saying or what they might have to offer, because people look down on Africa so much and that they don't look at Africa as this might be a place that could help us out with our health problems or emotional problems or with our own spiritual growth. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that?
I definitely agree with that. I think that um, we're just so used to taking a pill or going to Dr. Phil and just getting that type of Americanized advice. But the reality is, I think we all need to get back to wherever you're from, whatever your culture is. Get back to our roots. Get back to our ancestors and the basics, because there is so much knowledge and just amazing things there that we're unfortunately losing touch of. So we definitely got to get back to the basics.
Beautiful. And by the way, we're open for any questions that you all have. Any questions or comments, you can just post them here in the chat. Um, on some destinations, it's they don't, this platform doesn't allow us to see all the comments, but just try anyway, and we'll respond to any questions, any comments. So you talked about getting back to basics, and so I wanted to share one of the things that you and I do, a joint project that Malcolm and I do that helps us connect with nature, and that passion, this thing that we do is we take care of bees, honeybees, and we started doing this about a year ago. And bees are just important to our whole agricultural system, our food supply. Um, and what happened was I had a garden installed at some point last year, and I started to think about what would be good to add to this garden, and the idea came: get some bees, get some honey producing bees. And so this is a project we started working on together. I'm going to try but Malcolm, before I do that, I wanted you to tell
Yeah,
why do you feel passionate about this bee project that we have, and what have you been learning so far?
definitely. Like you mentioned, the garden was what kind of inspired the thought of it. Because prior to that, in my mind, I had never thought about being a beekeeper. And so once we decided to go move forward with it. I think I definitely like a challenge in life, and so being something foreign, something unknown to me was very, very challenging. I'm a kind of an all or nothing guy, so the day I told you that yes, let's get this hive and then we're going to do this, I started to YouTube and Google and look up and even get books. I started to kind of just throw myself at the subject of being a beekeeper. I was very intrigued with all the new things I learned. Like, for example, just a quick fact. There's a queen of the hive and everybody talks about the queen, but prior to that, I always thought that there was a king. If there's a queen, there has to be a king, and that's so. It was very intriguing to learn all the little things. And the society of bees of a beehive is very similar to the society that we live in, and like a family dynamic. There's workers, there's nurse, there's protectors, there's providers, there's moms. So there's a lot of different similarities between our society and the beehive colony. On top of that, there are several great products that we get outside of honey. There's propolis, which is a very beneficial byproduct. The bees mix with their saliva, and it helps with immune, blood pressure. There's so many benefits that you can get wax and make candles and soap. So there's a lot of benefits other than just the honey. And I found it as a very fascinating hobby, and I've
And it's
grown to love it.
interesting. Yeah, the bees in our backyard. I mean, the bees, they make honey for themselves, but then the honey that we have is a byproduct of bees.
Yeah,
And so one of our mentors is from Yemen, and he was saying that bees can teach us how to be more humble,
true.
how to be hardworking, how to cooperate. And so there's so many things that we could learn from bees, as well as other insects, as well as other things. I'm going to try and show a photograph of um, Malcolm and the Beehive. I'm not sure if this photograph will show, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. So if you can see this, I don't know if you can. This is a photograph of Malcolm in the backyard, my backyard, and he's showing us the hives. So what we're doing here is we're inspecting hives, inspecting the bees. The bees that we have, about 40,000 bees that live in the hive that we have in our backyard. And like I said, our plan is to um, to 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 get honey and to also create these products. So one of the things that we'll be doing is if you're in the Bay Area, Oakland Bay Area, we're doing a presentation at the Eco Village on May 14th. I'll be talking about the different things that we can plant that are good for bees to support bee life. And Malcolm, what will you be talking about?
I will be talking about hive management and bee facts. And so basically just what a hive is, what it consists of, why things are set up the way that they are, and how to maximize and have an efficient hive that benefits not only your garden, but the surrounding neighborhood and environment. Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be good things. They'll also be having kids events. There's going to be a petting zoo. There's going to be, I believe, pony rides. So it's going to be a great community event. Yeah.
Great. So I want to answer a question. So Regina is asking a question. She'd like to know what breathing techniques you use and how you learn these techniques.
Wow. Okay. There are there's two main breathing techniques that I learned as a teenager from a Native American guy. The first, which is one I typically use more, is called the breath to surrender. And I'll actually show you how to do it. You just take a few seconds. You take the breath in very, very slow. You take a deep breath. And at the top, you hold it for 3 seconds about, and you let it go like a sigh. And so what I was taught after doing it, it took me a year or so of practicing this breath before it actually became effective. But after a lot of practice, what happens is after you let the sigh out for 5 to 10 to 15 seconds, your brain goes blank and you forget about, it's almost like a reset button. At least that's what it became for me. The second breath is the breath to surrender, which is a little more rough. You bring it in quickly and you let it out like you're expelling something out of your body. And so I use those two breaths are my go-to. And depending on the situation, I typically use the breath to surrender more often. That's a great question. Thank you, Regina.
Right. Okay. And then Faniel just has a comment. You guys are amazing. We don't see this a lot. Father and son having a one-on-one conversation that matters. Yeah. Well, that's why we wanted to do it. Is
Sure.
so last week we were coming back from inspecting beehives, and I said, you know what, you should be a guest on Facebook Live. We'll just talk about our experiences. So we're open for we're going to we have a few more minutes left, so we're open definitely to any other questions or comments. Um, Hello, Timothy. Mali is asking, well, how was the experience of being on the motherland for the first time with a mission? And I think that we answer that. Um, um, Definitely, I definitely answered it in my book, Meditations Across the Kings River. But like I said, it was what was it like? It was not easy. You know, it was definitely a journey of faith, of just being willing. You know, but very very difficult journey, you know. When As I look back on the years, I would definitely say that it was 100% worth it.
Oh, yeah.
And that, you know, I have great respect for the elders that I work with and the spiritual work that we do in the Ifa spiritual tradition, you know. And the other thing I would say, because is that, you know, one of the things that this journey has taught me and continues to teach me is just patient. How many of the changes that we hope to see, you know, they don't necessarily happen overnight. I remember when my elders were telling me certain things that would happen in my own life. Well, it took a long time for it to happen. It's like they mentioned in the first time we went Malcolm, they said, I'll be writing a book. That was 2003. Well, that book happened in 2000, what, 18 is when the book came out.
Hmm.
So in the spiritual world, this whole thing of time doesn't really
True.
matter as much.
True.
And so as I work with a lot of people, they think like, well, if it didn't happen, then it's not going to happen. That's not true. It's just that things happen over time.
True.
Yes. Yeah.
That's true.
Um, so we're open for any other comments or questions. Let me see if there's any more questions. Hello, Faith. By the way, thank you for joining us. So what I wanted to ask, welcome. Would there be any like final like words of wisdom you would like to leave for the audience? Because we
Hmm.
just have a few more minutes. Is there any like final bits of encouragement that you would like to leave with?
Yes, yes, I definitely would. I think several times throughout my life there have been storms or doors or windows or things that have major events that have not necessarily been good. And so I have noticed looking back at it now that every time a door closes or a window closes or there's a major event, there's a blessing soon to follow. So my advice would be to just hold on, to have faith, whatever it is you believe in. Hang on to that, hold that dear to your heart, and know that after this storm, so to speak, again, that the sun will come out and that everything, not that everything's going to just be okay, but that there will be a blessing after every lesson. Um, Spiritual fitness, everyone, I think, is very, very important. Being right with God, being right with your family, being right with your loved ones. Know everything is not going to be perfect, but telling them that you love them every day, telling them that I'm sorry, or whatever it is that you need to say, make sure that you have said that, um, because we never know. So,
Right. So let me ask you this other question. So I didn't ask it. What is it? Because Faniel was talking about father son conversation.
yeah,
What does it mean to you to be a father? What is that experience like for you being a father, being a
I
parent?
think it is a very, it is one of the, it is the proudest title that I carry. I wear many hats, but that is the number one. And while we're talking about this, I definitely want to give praise to you as my father, because I had to get it from somewhere. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I definitely, um, it takes for one person to break that cycle and to break that change, and you've definitely done that. So I want to thank you for everything you've done. You're an amazing father, amazing man. And now that I am a father, there are things that I mimic and have, done to my kids that was done for me. So, like I mentioned, it's one of the most important jobs in the world. The way I see it is the future president is in middle school right now. The future engineers and scientists and innovators who are going to have technology to make our lives easier. Those people are in school right now. They're someone's children, basically, and they're our future. So to me, that's very near and dear to to my heart is being a father, and not just being a father, but being a mentor, coaching basketball, being a youth minister, and just talking to the kids is very, very important to me. It's my
Uh,
passion, and that's actually one of my goals, and one of my purposes in life is to be there for the youth. So yeah.
Beautiful. So let's see. Let's see if more questions came in. So Timothy is asking how can someone receive um, readings or guidance from me? Well, you can contact me at acrossthekingsriver.com. Send me an email there, or you could book a consultation there, and we'll be in contact. Uh, Thank you for all of your comments. Uh, Cindy says inspiring. So okay, Regina is saying um, that, what else? Uh, let's see. So getting some comments. Well, thank you, Fanuel. Thank you, Fanuel. Um, so I want to, hello, Shonda. Hello, Shonda. Um, Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out to spend time with us. I guess my final comment to, the audience is that I believe that it's important to stay in a in a in a positive space. You know, that's all that I try to do. I just try to follow inspiration wherever it is, and knowing that things can change. Because I seen, like, when I look at how all the changes in your life, obviously people can change,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously circumstances can change, and so, like, you've been such a blessing to us, like watching this and being a part of this. Like, wow, we don't have all we have are good things to say. Like, wow, this is possible. You didn't just pull through. You're not just doing okay, but you're like thriving in life. You're like you're like successful, and your kids are like well taken care of,
Yeah.
right? And you're doing things in the community. So change and transformation is possible
True.
for all of us. It's just like, are we patient? Can we, like you said, ride out the storms? Are we willing to be humble? Are we willing to get a mentor and all of these things? So anyway, thank you, Heather. Thank you for being here. Heather Craig, my friend in the Arizona area, is just dropping by. So I think this is it. So thank you all for your time today. Thank you for being a part of our journey. Again, if you'd like more information about the work that we are doing, visit me at acrossthekingsriver.com. We're moving forward with the film project. If you still don't have our book, Meditations Across the Kings River, where I talk about many of our life experiences, where I talk about Malcolm and our experiences in Africa, we would love your support with the book. You could purchase the book through any. You could get it directly from me if you want a signed autograph copy, or you can get it from any online retailer out there. It's available everywhere. So we thank you for your support. All right. Well, thank you. Blessings to you all. Have a blessed day. And again, thank you for being part of our lives. And please feel free to share the recording of our conversations with whoever you wish. All right. Thank you so much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you. Bye bye.
All right.